In this video today, we're going to discuss Polkadot and why buying and hodling a substantial amount might be something that your portfolio thanks you for in the future. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, guys, check it out, linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check it out. Okay guys, we're going to be talking about Polkadot. Now Polkadot is one of those things that not that many people actually truly understand, and there's a lot of fundamentals that you kind of have to get into to truly understand why Polkadot has such massive potential in the future. Now, I'm going to cover just one topic that I briefly spoke about a few months ago, and that is that Polkadot is a layer 0. Yes, a layer 0. And despite some of the comments in the YouTube sections where people think I just made that up, I do want to just highlight that layer 0, unfortunately, is not something that I made. I do not take credit for layer 0 in any way, shape, or form, but you can go and do some research on what a layer 0 is, why it's important, and why it could shape the future of cryptocurrencies and scalability and all of those wonderful things. There are some really fantastic layer 0s out there. Polkadot is one, Avalanche is another, Cosmos is another, and I'm sure there's a whole host of additional ones as well. So I wanted to just point out that Polkadot is not your layer 1, okay, despite maybe a few other influencers saying that Polkadot is a layer 1. It is not, it's a layer 0. Do some research on layer 0s, understand what it is that Polkadot's trying to do, why Polkadot is building out something that is rather complex but could be an absolute game changer. Now, when it comes to Polkadot, I think it's important that we have to understand that foundation, okay? So, and the same for Cosmos and the same for Avalanche. These are the foundation layer for fundamental analysis, which I think everyone should understand. But we're not really here to discuss the fundamental analysis. I'm here to talk about the technical analysis of Polkadot, because it did actually perform rather poorly in the bull run, right? And we can acknowledge this. We have the lows down here on our USDT weekly chart with Binance. We can see that it didn't really perform overly well. From August 2020 through to its high in November 2021, it was only 2,600%. I think Bitcoin actually technically outperformed Polkadot, and that isn't necessarily the best thing. Now, that's given a very short time frame, of course. Now, we have to understand, though, that when you're on the journey of building something as complex as a layer 0, and you're then trying to entice people to build their blockchains on top of that, then it's going to take some time to play out. And that's really where I think the future potential for Polkadot, Avalanche, and Cosmos really comes in. We'll focus on Polkadot from a technical standpoint, but do your research on all the others. It's probably worth noting I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot give you financial advice. All I can do is tell you what I think is going on inside the data in the charts, in my opinion. And it's important that you consult your own financial advisor if you have one, or I guess do your own research and come to your own conclusions. So do consider this for entertainment purposes or for educational purposes only. So when we have Polkadot here, we can see that it didn't perform overly well, and we have come down quite a bit. We came down, in fact, into some pretty decent levels. If I bring up this chart, we can see that this is an area that we had scoped out for quite some time on the channel. So anyone who's a member of our Patreon will know that essentially we will be talking about buy zones and things like that. We actually touched this one only very, very briefly. If I actually expand this up here, you can see right in here, we basically spent, this is a daily chart, only I think less than a week, about 4 to 5 days, right down in the top end of this buy zone, which was basically $3.53 to $4.33.9. And you can see it right in here. We just touch on it and then we launched to the upside. Now, we're not out of the woods when it comes to that just yet. We'll come back into that chart in a second. And now, when we take a look at our structure from a smart money concepts point of view, we can see that we can acknowledge that the area that I had drawn my Elliott wave cumulative area in also happens to be this little discount area, although smart money concepts has this much, much deeper than I had previously stated on my Elliott wave theory chart. Here on the smart money concepts chart, we can see it was down at $2 on the low side and then $4.64.3 on the high side. Again, same concept. We barely touched this area of discount and then we moved on up higher. Now, the thing that we have to acknowledge down here is we do have a week low down at the bottom here, okay, and we also have a week high. This is actually quite an interesting and unique position to find ourselves in on the chart. I don't think we're necessarily done with this area, and I think we have more I guess retracement to occur when it comes to Polkadot, so do expect some volatility. It does look like a really good move to the upside, and it is possible that the bottom is in down here, and I'm going to talk about why that is from an Elliott wave theory point of view. From a smart money concepts perspective, though, do expect retracements, do expect us to test this area again. I'm not saying new lower lows is a guarantee, but my expectations are with a bigger macro piece that we're probably going to have to come down into new lower lows at some point in the future. Now, with the week high and a week low, it puts us in a unique position. It means that we have potential to the upside of quite high significance, but we also have to acknowledge that we might not be done with the lows just yet. Now, we do have this change of characteristic over here, and we confirmed it over here when we went down into the actual new bear market low at the moment. Okay, so this has not changed. We're in a bearish state because we haven't changed the characteristics of the market to say that we are bullish, not from a smart money concepts point of view. So on this kind of weekly, on this daily chart, sorry, or weekly chart here, we can see that we do have some ground for concern with potential moves to the downside. But overall, we can acknowledge that actually, yeah, we're in a pretty reasonable structure here. And I think from a fundamental analysis, Polkadot's in a really good spot. So we want to be holding probably or have some exposure to Polkadot, in my opinion. Now, obviously, this is not paid content. I do see those comments that people love to put into the videos. No, we have not got any channel sponsors at the moment, and we do not do paid content or paid video content or anything like that. So this is not paid for by Polkadot in the same way that Chainlink video that I did the other day was not paid by Chainlink, for example, right? So just bear that in mind. You should do your own research. I'm just giving you my thoughts and opinions on this. I think Polkadot has potential to the upside. Now, Chris, the guy on the right, he essentially is a little bit more bullish on Polkadot than I am personally. I think it's got some potential to it, and I do think it will perform, but I don't think it's going to be massive performance, not necessarily in the next cycle. That being said, I still want exposure to it because I do think having some exposure to layer zeros is a pretty good idea. Whether you choose Polkadot, Avalanche, or Cosmos, or something else, do your own research. That I personally will be having exposure to Avalanche alongside Polkadot because I think both of those are fantastic protocols, and the total value locked on Avalanche is very interesting to say the least. So when we take a look at that, we can kind of get a good idea that we want exposure to layer zeros. I want Polkadot and I want Avalanche. I'm going to be exposed to both of these. I've already owned some Polkadot, but I intend to extend that position, and I'll be looking for a reasonable amount. Now, what is a reasonable amount? This will really depend on the individual. Personally, I think anywhere between 1,000 and 10,000 should be achievable for kind of your everyday investor. Okay, now that doesn't necessarily translate to your everyday retail investor. Your retail investor might be looking at amount maybe anywhere between 500 and 1,000 Polkadot, right? And I think that's okay for kind of your 9-to-5 individual retail investor who has some money to kind of dabble with. Now, I would say that there are going to be other altcoins that will perform better than Polkadot. That's my expectation. But I still think that it's good to have a diverse portfolio, and therefore exposure to Polkadot will be a reasonably good idea. But as I said, join us in Discord. We can continue the conversation about whether we think Polkadot's going to perform well or not. Now, on that note, let's actually talk about where we think things could potentially be going from a technical standpoint for Polkadot. And for that, we need Elliott wave theory, not smart money concepts. So we'll jump over into this chart here. Now, it's possible, as I said, that we bottomed, but it's not a guarantee. Okay, so we should kind of bear these things in mind. Okay, now looking at this, the key level that I'm looking for at the moment is going to be $9.68. If we can push up higher than $9.68, then I'll be happy to think that we probably have finished our bottom down here. And the reason is you can kind of see I've got these two three-wave structures. My concern is that all of this is just an A wave, right? And then this is a B wave, and then we come down here and we retest the lower side of our accumulation zones that we talk about with our members. And if you're not a member, then why not check out the membership here on YouTube using the join button down below, or hop on over to Patreon and you can check it out from there as well. We do cover a lot more for our members than we do just kind of do regular stuff on on YouTube and etc. So do check that out if that's of interest to you. Now, so when we take a look at our accumulation zone for Polkadot, we think, okay, well, we still have potential to the downside unless we pierce up higher than this origin level, which is not going to be a guarantee that we finished with our corrections per se, but it does limit the options that you have available to you, right? So if you're like a perma bear, you could look at this market, specifically where we are right now, and think to ourselves, okay, well, we're going down in a three-wave structure. We'd have to kind of look at this as a W, X, and Y, right? And then, of course, if that X wave were to come up higher than $9.68, what the bears would then have to do is they'd have to look at it as a flat corrective structure. Okay, they'd have to kind of come down here with an A, up here into a B, and then down here into a C. And that would be an irregular flat correction. Alternatively, they could have a running flat correction where they can explain a C wave not quite going down lower than the A wave, right? But there's limited options that you could then see occurring under those structures, right? If you're trying to make something fit. So obviously $9.68 becomes a very key level for us when it comes to Polkadot's price action. Until we push up higher than that, there are a lot more possibilities to the downside than there are to the upside. So the upside would be a pretty simple, look, we do something like this, right? And then, of course, your bearish situation would be that you'd have to kind of come down after that. Of course, if you do come down in a five-wave structure, it is, in fact, going to be a running flat. And it would basically be something to this effect here, right? And we could acknowledge that, and we'd be able to do that. But, you know, you can't just continue to move up without having healthy corrections. So $9.68 is important. But for the purpose of this video, because we haven't come down into new lower lows, we're going to take the existing low and we're going to kind of anchor that in a little bit. So when we start taking a look at the entire structure, well, we have a five-wave starting point. This is really important because when we have a five-wave structure like this, we have to end in five waves. All of this structure moves to the downside at the moment. These are short-term corrective structures being strung together. Okay, so this entire bear market is being made of these little choppy kind of corrective structures. We're not impulsive to the downside. We're not trending to the downside, not according to eight-wave theory, which means that we should be expecting a five-wave move to the upside. But there is a caveat. We cannot drop down lower than $2. Dropping down lower than $2, this big red area down here, would invalidate the idea that we're in some kind of zigzag pattern or impulsive structure. Okay, so I've kind of plotted out here potential moves. There's two key areas of interest to me. Okay, and I've kind of done a whole video on this, 100x potential, whatever I called it, I can't remember, but if you search Polkadot on the channel, you'll find it, and I explain all these structures in more detail. But there's basically two key areas that I'm interested in, $97 or $753, and we won't know which one of these is the most likely until we actually get into the bull market, right? But it gives us an idea that there's potential in price, right? So if I were to think about just coming up to this area here, we're talking about 1500%. It's not massive. Not unless, of course, we take into consideration maybe coming down to our current bear market low and thinking it's around 2,200. It's not too far off what we were doing before. Could be a five-wave structure in itself. Could complete a zigzag. Could be done, right? Alternatively, if we start thinking about those higher levels, then we're talking about 17,000%. And that's more in line with things like 𝗕𝗃, which was 43 or 46,000% in the last cycle, or Cardano's ADA, which I think was around the 17,000. Harmony One, which was, I think it was about 20-something thousand%, right? So there's a lot of potential in Polkadot here to see very significant returns on investment, but it does require us to hit those impulsive levels and to start thinking about this as a much bigger multi-cycle kind of five-wave impulsive structure for Polkadot. So ultimately, I'm really encouraged by layer zeros and the fundamental analysis, but I am also encouraged that this is probably something that will do reasonably well. It's not worth massive amounts of exposure to it, but it's worth having a little bit, in my humble opinion. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Are you looking to accumulate Polkadot? Do you already own Polkadot? Are you as excited as Chris is for the future of layer zeros and Polkadot's future within the crypto space? Let me know. Really interested to get everyone's kind of thoughts and opinions on Polkadot. As I kind of finish this video off, if you found it useful and informative, hit that like button. Do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And don't forget to join us down in Discord. If you're looking for more, though, do check out the memberships either through YouTube, clicking that join button down below, or over in Patreon, which is also linked in the description below. Until the next one, though, guys, have a fantastic day.